Let's talk a bit about secondary school education. Wouldn't digital literature be a very nice topic for secondary school education? Well, intuitively, it would be, right? So especially in the Netherlands, but then also in other European countries, there's actually this sharp decline in interest among young people in language and culture education. And this mostly relates to reading. It turns out that people, especially when they're young, are less and less interested in reading books, for instance, reading novels, reading longer stretches of text. And this is actually quite problematic because at some point in your life, in actually many occasions during your life, you simply have to read text, right? For instance, if you have to sign a contract, if you're buying a house, in many important instances in your life, you need to be capable of reading quite complex and long stretches of text. So it's important actually that people are being trained for this already when they're young. And if there's not so much interest by adolescents in reading in general, this at later stages of their lives might lead to all sorts of problems. At the same time, this also leads to a shortage of qualified teachers in the Netherlands. So during secondary school, pupils are not that interested, for instance, in Dutch or in English or in French. And therefore, also, there are not too many of them that go study in university in programs related to those topics. So the number of students number of pupils that become a student in Dutch, for instance, in the Netherlands are like on a historically low number at the moment. And this also has to do with the idea that language education is often conceived of as old-fashioned, both by teachers, current teachers, and by pupils. So all this together sort of is asking for a solution. And it would be very tempting and intuitive to say, well, young people, what do they like? Many of them like gaming, they like technology, much more than reading boring books, right? So shouldn't we be adding digital literature to the secondary school curriculum? And then again, pupils will be super interested in reading, perhaps. Wouldn't that be the case? So it could look like something like this. So you take all your VR headsets to a secondary school classroom, all pupils wear one and they see all sorts of nice, fascinating digital literature poems around them. And perhaps they will then lead to them getting more interested in reading again. That's sort of a line of argumentation for sort of implementing this into the classroom. What I hope that you have learned, one of the things that you've learned throughout this course is to think about this in a critical way. So this all sounds very good, right? It sounds very nice. Yeah, of course, pupils will like VR headsets because they're still relatively novel. They're sort of nice tools. They're sort of, I can show you things that are sort of a bit spectacular. They're way more interesting, perhaps, in the short term compared to words on a page. We all know what words look like, right? It's not very exciting. But still, I think the link from then having this experience in the classroom and then, for instance, hoping that those pupils here would start reading more, I think that link is not at all established yet, right? Perhaps those pupils like this so much that they never want to read anymore. They just want to have this they just want to wear this headset and spend their time in the virtual world all the time. So it's a good idea, I think, in many of those cases where those kind of catchy solutions are being proposed, to think about this in a critical way. Would this really lead to something? Also, what you see here is that this is a very individual experience, right? All those people are now in their very much individualized world. They no longer sort of experience each other in this classroom. So maybe this is not a good idea at all. So if you encounter one of those sort of solutions that at first sight seem very prominent, try to be skeptical and see what research says about this. Is there any research looking into this? What did they find? Did pupils like this? Did this lead to better study outcomes? Was this then due to a novelty effect or not? So it's a good idea, I think, to remain critical, to have this critical mindset when you're thinking about, when you're encountering those kind of solutions.